Here we are again. No, this is me again. This is me, a peasant. Okay, it's your favorite peasant web developer, and today I'm in Nagasaki. In today's video, I'll be talking to you about how I got here, not in Nagasaki, but in Japan, and how much I made, and all those kind of things. I'll be talking about how I got here with under 2K savings, and how I made it. But yeah, this area is Glover's Garden. And well, this was one of the most important trading ports of Japan a few hundred years back. The Dutch came here, the Russians came here, Chinese came here. But this is the worst place to make this video, but I thought I'd make it here. And I'll walk around and talk to you. So, coming to Japan with under $2,000 and a working holiday visa. I don't recommend it, but I'll tell you how I did it. And before I start, feel free to add me on LinkedIn, and if you're a junior dev or a developer overseas wanting to get a job in Japan, check out the link of gaijinpot, starting up my little service there. But anyway, let's get started. I think actually the reason why I would like to make a video on this location is a few hundred years ago, my bloodline of my ancestors were probably something like peasants, like most people, and it would be impossible for any of us peasant-like people to enjoy the nice things in life. Being able to fly somewhere and get a job was probably alien at that time. But nowadays, there's kind of, you can make excuses, I suppose, but there is no excuse if you want to try something yourself. So in my case, I started off in New Zealand as a porter. I was the bellboy at a hotel. So I'd be driving people from the hotel to the airport, and that was my job. And helping guests to their room, taking their luggage, and smiling, telling them, good evening, sir. Things like that. It was a job. It just got me, what I needed to live, to save up. So that job, I saved up just under $2,000. And I got a working holiday visa before I came to Japan. And this is back in 2009, I forgot exact. 2009 and 10, saved up $2,000, and I had a crappy desktop as we ordered back in the 2000s, and with a desktop and a crappy internet, I researched how to get a job in Japan. And back then it was really hard to find a lot of information, but all I saw is that you can become an English teacher if you have a degree. I just got a crappy degree. C's gets degrees, as they say. Okay, so then to come to Japan, 2,000 wasn't enough. So I spent like maybe 1 year to save up 2,000. It's how, I come from a pretty poor, that's relative, right? But 2,000 was a lot of money. I can't imagine saving up 2,000 back then. Now, 2,000 wasn't enough, but if you have a working holiday visa, you need to show them that you have 2,000 in the bank. So I saved up 2,000 from my bellboy hotel job, and then basically the plan was to find an English teaching job. I didn't have any connections, and I knew nothing about anything. All I knew is that, okay, just save up 2,000 and then go to Japan. But also remember, the flight cost around 1,000, few hundred. So I took a bank loan. Naughty me. I took a bank loan, which I didn't pay till like 7 years later or something. And then, as you know, if you debt max, you just wait for it to 5 years later, and you can pay 50% of it. It's not a recommendation, but that's the way it works, right? You just get debt, and then you pay 50% off 5 or 6 years down, and then they say something like, "Oh, Tyrone, you're going to you can't get a mortgage if your credit score is gonna." It's like, so what? I'm not gonna buy a house. I'm a millennial. You think I'm gonna buy $1 million house in Auckland City? Are you crazy? You think I'm gonna spend $1 million on that? I don't even have $1 million. I don't even have $100,000 to put on the house. I mean, you need 200,000. So, but anyway, that's a story for another time. Nagasaki is so hilly. So many hills. You get tired very quickly. I'm up on a hill right now. Just tried some coffee in this tea house with a castella, very European, elegant. Probably slave owners from Indonesia. Anyway, that's a different story. My mind's all over the place. I had too much sugar. So I got that bank loan to pay for the flight and some other things, just some simple clothing. I don't have enough socks and all that. And then, so I came to Japan in 2009 around with $2,000. That's New Zealand dollars, so it's a lot less than yen or USD. But how did I make it? Well, I gave myself 3 months to find a job, or else I would have to go back home to New Zealand at my parents' house. So I gave myself 3 months. If I broke it down, when I first came here, I had to search for not a backpacker, but somewhere to stay. So I flew in. I had no cell phone or computer. I stayed at a shared house, and at that time it was like yomang, like $400 a month, and it was in an 8-bed dormitory. Okay, so that goes. Let's say I have enough for 2 months. That leaves me with $1,000 and $1,200 or so. I basically said to myself, I worked it out like this. I'll spend $400 a month on rent at a dormitory, sharing eight bed bunk dormitory. And then I'll spend another $400 or $500 a month on food or trains and stuff like that. So I got there to the shared house, and I was looking at gaijinpot, which is online website to check for jobs. I was looking around for an English teaching job, and you might think, oh, that's easy to get. Well, if you first come here, it's probably not. I mean, it's easier than any other job as a foreigner, but okay, my mind's on. This is Ringa Hut, I think. This is Ringa. There's a Ringa Hut restaurant. I think it's based off this. I'm not too sure. I'm terrible at history. Look at all those houses up there on the hill. It's pretty cool, right? Okay, I better sit down and talk properly. So I applied for quite a few jobs, and they didn't accept me. They didn't accept me. I had no experience in teaching. I wasn't well presented. I didn't have a suit, so I had to buy this really crappy shirt. I applied for a few jobs and interviewed, and they said no. And I'm a bit of a rough kid, if you know what I mean. I just walked around with a Nirvana t-shirt and smoked cigarettes because I thought it was cool. It's not cool anymore. Don't smoke anymore. I mean, do what you want. So my first month in the share house, I was eating rice and instant noodles, tuna, things like that. A lot of mayonnaise, because I have terrible skin because I eat a lot of mayonnaise and tomato sauce. And then I found a person who could connect me to a part-time English teaching job in Shinjuku area by the Shinjuku station. So that was my first job, and I was through someone connected me inside the share house. that wasn't a full-time, it was a part-time. The hours were irregular, but the maximum I could get a month was hachimang, just say $800. So I had that job for 3 months. So my savings went really fast, because you're in a share house with a whole bunch of young active people who just want to enjoy themselves, and I was living in a really cheap shared house at Kichijoji, which is quite a few stations away from Shinjuku. After the 3 months, but also remember, I had $2,000 New Zealand, so that's not 2,000. That's not Nijuman. That's not 2,000 US dollars. It probably ended up being like 1,500 US, or like Jusamang or something. Or it wasn't so great. Actually, the yen was really strong compared to the New Zealand dollar at that time. So that would go in about a month and a half. So I really had to find something quick right then, or else I would be homeless and foodless and just go back to New Zealand. So getting that first English teaching job and only getting about hachimang, $800 a month, that saved me. And I worked there for 3 months. I basically made it so that I would spend $400 for rent and $400 for food, just to survive. And I did that for 3 months. And I think the point I'm trying to get here is there is a way to make it if you don't have much. I'm not saying everyone can just come to Japan with 2,000 New Zealand dollars, or even 1,500 US dollars, and just make it. I'm not saying make it, but just to live life. Sometimes you just have to I think sometimes you have to put yourself in those situations where it's do or die, if you know what I mean. And this coming as a person who had no skills, and as you can tell, my language and communication is terrible. Sometimes you just gotta give it a shot, even though you don't have much money. You'll find a way. I don't know if you can find some places for $300 a month, kind of shared house style, really, really crappy places. There's one in Asakusa, I'll show you the image, and it was an option, like $300 a month for this really old crappy place. If an earthquake hit, it would be the first place to bust down. So there are ways, and you can eat cheap food. Like there's 100 yen, it's not good for your body, like 100 yen instant rice. I just bought a big bag of rice and cooked it every day, and then bought stacks of tuna, and then eggs are cheap, so you can do that for a few months. But I guess everyone here has some type of technical skills, so you won't be, you can find a job a lot faster than an English teacher, because just the supply and demand issue there with IT. So if you are thinking, what I'm trying to say is, if you are from another country thinking, how do you survive the first few months? I just think you can find cheap places for 50,000 yen, $500 a month. And just give yourself 6 months to find a job. Let's break it down simply. Find a share house that you can pay for the dormitory $500 per month. And then think of it as $500 per month for food and whatever. I mean, that's the max. If you're just looking for a job, you shouldn't even be going out. You should just be eating rice and tuna and instant noodles and eggs until you can find a job. But what I'm trying to say is it's so doable. If you can get a working holiday visa, and I think some people ask me, like, how do you get a work visa? If you are eligible for a working holiday visa, and it depends on your country and your age, I think you should come here on a working holiday visa first. Like save up about $1,000 a month, and let's say you give yourself 3 months, 3 to 6 months. So 3 months, $3,000. Give yourself 3 months to find something. And you'll push yourself to do it, I think. I think you put yourself in a corner, you'll end up fighting back. So just give yourself $2,000-$3,000, live in a backpackers or whatever, apply everywhere, and then push for a higher income, and you'll be good. So that's one way. Maybe this is my video on coming to Japan on a working holiday visa. My story, how I did it, and how you can do it too. Oh yeah, so after the 3 months of experience of part-time teaching, that's when I was able to get a full-time job in Saitama, a city nearby next to Tokyo. That was my first job, and that was the big achievement, coming here to get an actual job, not a part-time job, a full-time job. And the reason why I'm saying peasant is because for some people out there, that's normal to get a job. It's normal to wear a suit. It's normal to be a part of society. But for others, it's a big jump just to shake hands with people and converse correctly. It's a strange thing from me, from West Auckland, for the streets of West Auckland. This is Thomas Glover's house. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. He's the guy who helped make all this. And this is the awesome view of Nagasaki, the main city area. As you go towards this side, that's mostly Mitsubishi shipping companies, boat building. You can see the. Yeah, I don't just want to talk in front of a computer. I think I want to show you some stuff while I talk. Yeah, a little more interesting. So yeah. And if you can become like the best one to be, the best one, the top guy, would be you work in Japan and you work remotely and you can travel anywhere you want, because you can look around Japan and find out the history of it. It's really interesting. That's one thing I urge you to do. If you come here, don't just stay in Tokyo. Look around. The history is so interesting in Japan. There's 100 churches in the city. That's him there. Thomas, Blake, Clover. And then you can see in some areas they're like churches, crosses. Like you wouldn't expect that this place had so many Christians and Catholics. And the interesting thing about these mixed kind of houses is that the bottom part is Western, but then the top part they use Japanese roofs and tiles. So the mix of two cultures and architecture is a really unique look. I travel around Japan constantly. I try to make a YouTube channel, but I thought it was really tiring of traveling. So I make more of a tech and help people out kind of video to connect with Japanese companies. But let me know if this kind of content sucks. Like if I talk to you about tech stuff or working in Japan, things like that, while I'm traveling, like with background and a bit of history with me. Or do you just prefer I just tell you straight up on my, on a normal computer camera and just in an office telling you straight to the computer screen? So the question is, which do you prefer?